Hi, hello. There we go. Hi, hello. It's me, your Benna, with Lenny Thursday. An egg. Hopefully he doesn't start working because you know how it be.
Hey, I think whoever's outside that you see is probably allowed to be out there. Yeah, yeah. I think people are allowed to be outside.
I don't even think they're on our property. See, he's just a good listener. All right, let's go. We're gonna run Lenny Thursday like we did last week. I am changing the last thing instead of it being rising. We're just gonna do sun, moon, stars. So you can choose for your reading today if you would like to like claim the sun reading, the moon reading, or the stars reading. Those are your options for today. So that will be 9 cards total. You can claim them all, whatever you want. I don't care. Let's go. Let's get started. All right. What do we need to know for our sun reading? We already had one card pop out. That's really great. What do we need to know for our sun reading? What do we need to know for our sun reading? What Lux and Vita followers need to know for their sun reading? Can I have 2 more cards, please? These two. All right. And then let's shuffle some more for our third. What do we need to know for our moon reading? What do we need to know for our moon reading? What do we need to know for our moon reading? I need 3 cards, please. We got one. We got 1 card. What do we need to know for it? We got 2 cards. We got 2 cards here. What do we need to know for our third card for the moon reading? Third card for the moon reading, please. That is not. No. I want 1 more card for the moon reading, please. This one. We'll do that one. All right. And then for the stars reading, let's go. 3 cards for the stars reading. What do we need to know? 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 What do we need to know for the stars reading? What do the Lux and Vita followers need to know in the star reading? There's 1 card. Stars. What do the stars need to know? What do the stars need to know? 2 more cards, please. Can I please have 2 cards? What do we need to know for the stars reading today? These two. All right. All right, let's go with the reveal. The sun cards. We have nice. We have rider. We have ship, and we have garden. So definitely some movement, lots of movement. I mean, rider and ship both are movement cards. Rider also has to do with grace. Ship is a little bit more about the change of things than like actual physical movement, if that makes sense. So when I say movement, it can have multiple definitions there, but what we're kind of talking about here is more along the lines of that internal shift, that internal movement that you feel, um, with ship being there and change, and then with garden, some of that the public sphere. There's some difference happening there. Who you are in your outward expression, in the collective's understanding of who you are and what you look like and what you say and what you do and the things that you can offer. Um, this is a really nice reading for the Suns, and this is really, really nice. So, what I would say is if you claim the Sun reading for today, then you can potentially, more than likely, expect to see some change in the public spectrum about you and your work or what you do. All right. Good job, sons. Thanks for being here. I hope that helps. For the moons, we have heart, we have storks, and we have, ooh, just throwing them all out of my hand there. We have anchor. So, heart is definitely a really nice card because it's like, hi, hello, I love you, thank you. Um, but it's also about forgiveness. So that's a really nice thing. You know, pleasure, enjoying life, enjoyment, but forgiveness as well. And then with storks, it's like that's the change. That's change too. Being fertile and fertility, not necessarily being hi, you're having a child, but like that's kind of like the representation of the storks card, right? Of fertility. But what is fertility? What does that mean? What is someone who's fertile? And it's not always someone that has a lot of kids. It can be someone that is really good at manifesting for themselves. It can be someone that is really creative and can create and accomplish a lot with their creativity. So, with the anchor there at the end, creating this really nice kind of like ground yourself into the enjoyment of creating, you know? So if you've been struggling with creating things, it is that habit of getting into it and just finding the little moments that you enjoy, not being hung up on the perfectionism of it, right? I recorded a podcast last night for Stranger Than Christian. I spent the rest of the night afterwards, like, analyzing my conversation and being like, oh, I should have said this, oh, I should have said that. And every time I had that thought, I had to be like, hey, you did a great job just talking about what you are and who you are. And the premise of it is that you're no longer strangers. So all you can do is talk about yourself and the things that you experience and things like that. And to say that you did bad or that you should have said this or you should have said that, I said what I said. And I had a really good time recording that. So it's this, it's finding the pleasure and forgiving yourself for maybe saying going off on some tangent instead of really saying what you wanted to say. But who knows, that tangent probably has a lot to do with what you were talking about anyway? Um, so yes, I really, really like this moon reading, especially with the moon being for like your emotional self. The sun reading actually makes a lot of sense today because that's about your identity and your sun is what you identify, how you identify and things like that. So this is really interesting. I'm really excited to see what the stars have to say. But that our creativity and our creative selves are ways that we nourish ourselves. You don't have to paint, you don't have to draw, you don't have to sing, you don't have to play an instrument. Just find whatever makes you feel creative, right? Like, I love reading charts. That makes me feel like I'm being creative. I'm using that part of my brain that feels creative. When I give people a massage, that feels creative. I'm not necessarily out here painting lifelike relics that will last for 500 years after I've died. Like, I'm just living my best life, trying to be creative. So, that is a really nice reading for the moon cards today. I really, really like that. Grounding yourself in the pleasure of creating, you know? That's a really, really good message. I really, really like that. So for the last set that we have, for the stars reading, um, we have a little bit more of some truth, I think, because it's a little hard to handle. So snake, mountain, and book. This is asking us to kind of understand the duplicity of the long research, that sometimes things may not always appear as they are, and that sometimes history can be a threat to us. Our knowledge and how long it takes us to get to the things that we need to do can be sneaky, sneaky. But the thing that I like about the snake card and what snake actually means as a symbol is it's a symbol of transformation. snakes shed their skin, and history, book, the mountain, the long time ago past. Um, Understanding that and seeing the duplicity of history, how the narrative has been predominantly run by old white men, and, you know, talking about how trans people have existed from the beginning of time and non-binary folk have existed from the beginning of time because that's how it is. And it's just really interesting. It's really interesting cards for today. So, if you are someone that needs to take a look at the history and understand the duplicity of things or understand how threatening some things are, like I look at this and I think about my past life of Clara and how she was an original Pennsylvania settler. And what I mean by that is she's a colonizer. And on the surface, that doesn't sound great. That doesn't sound good at all. And in fact, it's not great. It's not good. But she was a woman. She didn't have a voice in that conversation of whether or not she even moved to the Americas from Germany. Her dad made her move, and her dad controlled her life. She fell in love with an indigenous person, and she got pregnant with that person's baby. She's an original settler. She's a colonizer. When you hear that word, when you hear the word colonizer, your immediate thought is someone who's like Christopher Columbus, raping and pillaging and being awful and gross and harming people for millennia, it feels like. Um, and that wasn't Claire's case. So, on the surface, it sounds like she's a really horrible person and she's a human. She was a human. We all have our flaws. We all have our really gross, sticky parts. But at the same time, like she wasn't your idea of what colonizer is. I'm not defending her. Her dad shouldn't have moved here. Her dad killed her because she was married to an indigenous person and pregnant with their child out of his ideas of what marriage was. So, like, it's still a really tragic and sad story. It still has those tones of white people are gross and awful and need to change a lot of things. Um, but that's kind of what Snake Mountain Book is. It's taking a look at it more. I'm not defending any colonizing. I'm not. That's not what I'm saying by that. What I am saying is look at history and look at the truth of it instead of just what you've been told about it, right? I know the truth about Clara because I've done my research with her. I've done not just my internal work, but also other work that I've had to do. Tangible physical work, the mundane work, right? The taking a pendulum and a map, and that's still kind of witchy, but looking up records and things like that, trying to find the information that you need to find. And what I do understand is because she's so original, so old, there really isn't a lot of that paper trail the way that there needs to be. Plus, when she died, her dad murdered her. He totally covered up. He was like, no, she's not dead. She ran off with her Indian husband. Buh-buh. And I hate her for it. Whole time, he had killed her. The whole time, her dad had murdered her. The whole time, he knew what he had done. So, you know, history's ugly and gross, but we have to learn from it so we don't repeat it, okay? Thanks. That's what Snake Mountain Book means. Thank you. This has been your Lenny Thursday. Be nice to people. I love you all. Thank you for being here. Okay. Bye, 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 bye. Bye, bye, bye. Bye. Bye.